This is a breaking news update from Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
Good morning and thank you for joining us. I'm Latrice Curry.
And I'm David Carroll. We're bringing you a special report on Vice President Mike Pence's trip to the Tennessee Valley. Let's take a live look now at Air Force Two. It has just landed at the Chattanooga airport minutes ago, about 10 minutes behind schedule. Now he's on his way to Dalton to campaign for Georgia's Republican gubernatorial candidate Brian Kemp. And throughout this visit today, we'll be covering every angle of Vice President Pence's trip to the Chattanooga and later Dalton areas.
All right, and we have multiple crews in Dalton at the convention center, and we're keeping an eye on traffic delays due to blocked roads. Now, Kate Smith is at the Chattanooga airport, where you just saw that live look of Air Force Two just landing. And that's where we begin our team coverage. And Kate, tell us about, of course, what's going on there. We just saw Air Force Two land.
That's right. Vice President Pence is now in Chattanooga. We saw the crowd. They started clapping when he came. You can see this group of people right here is friends and family of the Secret Service, as well as law enforcement officials who are working today's event. They are waiting for the Vice President to get off of Air Force Two. Vice President Pence started about 20 minutes late today. He left Andrews Air Force Base around 9:20 today. He was supposed to leave at 9 o'clock, so that's why he's a little late today. You can see Air Force Two getting ready for the Vice President to get off the plane. Lots of law enforcement officials here today. We have the Secret Service, we have Chattanooga Police, we have the Tennessee Highway Patrol, Chattanooga SWAT team. Canines were out sweeping the area earlier today, getting ready for Vice President Pence's arrival here. The rain just started coming down about like 5 minutes ago, right when we were told that he was on his way. So the crowd has their umbrellas out. Everyone's kind of covering up right now, waiting for the Vice President.
And Kate, of course, we're looking right now too live at Air Force Two as it is making its way taxiing up there to let the Vice President off, and we're all waiting, of course, to get off. Now, from your vantage point, what you are seeing, about how many people there are actually waiting, because right now we're just looking at Air Force Two from our point of view. How many people are actually probably waiting out there to actually greet the Vice President when he arrives?
Well, there's about 75, I would say, citizens here. Like I said earlier, they are friends and family of the Secret Service, as well as our local law enforcement officials. They were invited to come and meet the Vice President, as well as the Brian Kemp, who is running for governor of Georgia. So about 75 there, and then there's hundreds of law enforcement officials. Like I said, the police department, THP, as well as the Secret Service here. So this airport is packed right now.
And like you said, those people who are there waiting to visit with the Vice President are like special guests, and of course the officials of waiting to officially greet the Vice President. And of course now we see Air Force Two slowly making its way up, taxiing as they're about to let the Vice President off there of Air Force Two. Hey, talk a little bit about, of course, you had the drizzle up there too, a little bit of drizzle out there as well. I'm guessing obviously everyone waiting, but not really dampering the spirit of those waiting to see the Vice President.
Yeah, absolutely not. Everybody has their phones out. It's pointed right to Air Force Two. They are waiting for the Vice President to get off of the plane. I see one umbrella out here. One umbrella, not counting mine. So these people they're strong out here. They don't mind the little bit of rain that's coming down.
And we should mention that Vice President Pence is scheduled to speak at a rally at the Trade Center in Dalton at 11:30. The fact that he's landing a few minutes late, I would imagine that'll be backed up a few minutes, but of course folks are waiting at the Convention Trade Center in Dalton. And you know, I would expect as long as everything goes smoothly with the landing and the highways between Chattanooga and Dalton, that may be more like 11:45 for a start time in Dalton.
Yeah, usually a lot of times when politicians come like this, and especially having to make that land either whether it's Air Force One or Air Force Two, often running a little bit late for their crowds. But again, like David's saying, getting to Dalton probably would be about 10 minutes late. And we did just see a shot, David, as Kate was telling us, of the crowd there, and we saw everyone with their cell phones up, and really no umbrellas, but cell phones, and in high spirits, excited and anxious to see the Vice President and waiting for him to get off of Air Force Two. And we'll see also who is on Air Force Two arriving with the Vice President. Congressman Chuck Fleischman, we were told, expected obviously will be there as well, along with other officials, local officials as well.
Well, you know, there's a lot of star power coming our way the next few days.
It really
when I say
is.
our way, let's include North Georgia all the way down to Atlanta. When you're talking about President Trump coming here Sunday, we're talking about Oprah. We're talking about former President Obama. So there's a lot going on, and obviously our neck of the woods, Southeast Tennessee and Northwest Georgia, considered a big part of the election strategy between now and Tuesday. And
it's really interesting, David, how they're comparing this year the election for midterms, which is typically, we know, we report every year on usually how bad midterm election turnouts are. And for this year, it's comparing it to a presidential election cycle almost, and the number of people who have voted early so far. And of course, early voting, we need to let people know that. In Tennessee, early voting wraps up today, but in Georgia, it wraps up tomorrow. So want to make sure that people know that if you plan to vote early in Tennessee, it's today, and if it's in Georgia, it is tomorrow at the close of business day for early voting. And then of course, Election Day next Tuesday.
I'm not sure if the weather is going to play any role in this today. As of yesterday, one of the Hamilton County election officials told me they expected today, the last day of early voting in Tennessee, to look a lot like Election Day. But now again, the rain may hold some people at home today, but that's what we've been told. All right, there you see a lot of folks getting off the plane there. Air Force Two landing in Chattanooga, and in just a little while we should be seeing the Vice President himself. And he's going to be headed to a motorcade that will take him to Dalton, Georgia, in the rain, on this Thursday morning, November 1st, 2018.
And of course, David, those that we were seeing, obviously Secret Service and officials there with the Vice President getting off as we wait for the Vice President to actually get off the Air Force Two as well.
And for many people at the airport and at the Trade Center in Dalton today, you know, this is history. We've heard from people and seen comments on Facebook. Certainly a lot of supporters of President Trump and Vice President Pence will be on hand. Others, you know, have commented, I don't really have strong feelings either way, but how many times in your life do you get a chance to say you were in the house or at the airport when the President or Vice President came to town? So a lot of people just wanting to be a part of history today and then again later this weekend.
And I think that's an important point that you brought up, that some people certainly do look at it that way, as if, you know, some people, like I said, that I don't have strong feelings either way, you know, but because this is the President of the United States, because this is the Vice President of the United States, this is a part of history, and I want to be a part of this. And to say, you know, I was there when the Vice President or the Vice President came to my city, or I was at the airport, or this particular event. So again, history being made. And you were talking about, we were looking at the history of earlier this week of presidential visits here to the scenic city, Chattanooga, in this area.
Well, the clock has just struck 11. For those of you who ordinarily turn on Channel 3 to see Julie Edwards and 3+U, you're getting Latrice and me and various other members of our Channel 3 News team today as we cover the arrival of Vice President Pence to the Chattanooga airport, and we will follow this throughout his appearance and also bring you live coverage of his remarks in Dalton today.
And we have team coverage there, and we have all of our crews there. We have Kate Smith, Cameron Taylor, Tanisha Cordell, and Caitlin Chastain, and they are all out there at various locations. Of course, we started off our team coverage with Kate Smith, and Kate was at the airport there. We'll be checking back in with Kate, and we'll be checking in with all of our crews who are down in Dalton awaiting the Vice President's arrival. We'll have crews inside the event and outside as well.
And we keep wiping off the camera there just because a lot of moisture.
The water there.
One point we should make today, it's interesting to me that had you told me a couple of years ago that the Georgia governor's race and the Tennessee U.S. Senate race would be so contested and so close and such a big part of each party's national strategy, I might have said, I don't see that, because President Trump carried Tennessee and Georgia by such tremendous margins 2 years ago. But obviously things have tightened up for whatever reason. And we have a very competitive governor's race in Georgia with Secretary of State Brian Kemp on the Republican side and Stacey Abrams on the Democratic side, the longtime state legislator. And the polls are showing this race, as well as the Tennessee senatorial race, to be a dead heat. And
48
that's why
and
you're
47%.
seeing,
That's right.
that's why you're seeing Vice President Pence. That's why you're seeing President Obama, former President Obama, and President Trump coming this weekend. That's why Oprah, Taylor Swift, and so many other celebrities are making themselves part of these races.
Throwing their star power and their weight behind these candidates. And again, like you said, we're going to, of course, we're continue to keep this shot on that's waiting for Vice President Pence. But as you were saying, David, I mean, the fact that President Trump carried both of these states by such large margins, and then for these races to be so competitive, especially the Georgia governor's race right now, virtual dead heat, U.S. Senate race here in Tennessee, also very close. And again, like you said, both of these areas very, very important to both of these parties and their national strategies, so what they're trying to do there. So again, it really is, and when we see that and we see what they're doing right now, and these both of them within 1% of each other. So again, lots of star power, and we're told that the crew is being forced inside at that time. That's why you saw the camera in that shot right there. Do we know why? Can you tell us why the crew was forced inside? Do we know why? Or but we just do know that the crew was forced inside.
Because law enforcement said so.
Exactly. That's all we really do.
Okay.
Rain, okay. All right. But that's really all we need to know, though, right? But again, so our crew was forced inside, but we're going to continue to cover this. And you saw that Vice President Pence was about to get off of the Air Force, too, probably in the next few minutes, though. And his motorcade will be leaving to head down to Dalton. So as you were saying, it definitely will not be 11:30 when he gets started there in Dalton.
It'd be awfully hard to get there by then. So you folks who are in Dalton, if you happen to be watching us on a portable TV of some sort, yes, you know it's going to be delayed a few minutes there. But it is fascinating as a political observer just to see, you know, what's taken place in the last few months. Those of you who watch TV, and thank you for doing so, you have seen this onslaught of advertising that frankly none of us expected.
No.
We knew that because Senator Corker was retiring, there would be heavy interest from several candidates in that race, but I don't think any of us predicted the national attention and frankly national money that has been poured into that particular campaign. It's all going to be over after Tuesday. So we've got a lot of politics coming up between now and then.
We certainly do. And let's go back to Kate Smith, and we can at least try to talk to you, Kate, and tell us about what happened. I know that you all were forced inside. So what's going on out there now? Okay.
Yeah, well, the rain started coming down, so they're moving everybody inside of the airport. But you can still see Air Force 2. We are still waiting for the Vice President to get off of the plane. He will then be placed into the motorcade, and then that's when they're going to move us inside. So we are still waiting for Vice President Pence to get off the plane and then move inside, where he'll do a little bit of a meet and greet with some of the people here at the Chattanooga airport.
Oh,
that's something that we should add to the Vice President's delay a little bit as well.
Right, I was going to say, because we were expecting him, so he's not just going straight to the motorcade and leaving, but he is going inside. You said, Kate, first to kind of do a meet and greet inside the airport.
That's what I was told originally before the rain started. So I'm not exactly positive if that's still the plan right now, because I know this rain is really throwing everything off. But originally I was told that he was going to chat with some of those supporters here today. I'll get that answer to you, and I'll figure that out for everyone.
Okay, and Kate, since you've moved inside, and tell us a little bit, and we know that there were people there who were specially invited out to a special guest to see and meet and greet with the Vice President today. But what else is going on in the airport? I guess I'm sure people observing, excited. Some people probably had no idea the Vice President was landing today there.
We're actually at a special part in the airport, so we're not with the people doing the commercial flights or anything like that going to or from places. Where I'm at right now at the airport is specifically for the Vice President's visit.
And so, as you were saying, you're all waiting in there, and as we wait for the Vice President to exit the plane there, so hopefully the Vice President will be getting off shortly. We'll be able to.
I was just told that he will be coming inside.
Okay.
And I should also mention, some of you may
Yes.
be wondering if if Vice President Pence is going to be meeting Brian Kemp in Dalton.
There
And
is
he
Vice President Pence right there.
And actually, as you see, there they are.
Yeah.
So they will be making that trip together. So at 11:07 a.m., a few minutes behind schedule, Vice President Pence greets a cheering audience in Chattanooga, Tennessee, with Brian Kemp, Secretary of State in Georgia, who carried every county.
Except for 2, I believe.
Well, I believe 157 out of 159,
Right.
something to that effect.
Yes.
But a very impressive win over Casey Cagle during the primary. And he faces Stacey Abrams, a Democrat who also had a huge win in Georgia.
And I think that was kind of the interesting part as we look there at Get a Better Shot Now. We see Vice President Mike Pence and Secretary of State Republican gubernatorial candidate Brian Kemp